I think that we had great players on both of those teams, but somehow I felt like the motivation was a little bit higher. It seemed like we were playing for each other. Although I felt like I've done that every year that I played. I don't know why. It just seemed like for those years it was more.
Closer,
it was
family.
more special. It was like I'm playing for my brothers.
Yeah.
I'm playing for family. Because we spent so much time together. Not only on the field practicing in the meeting room, but man, we did everything together.
Line them up and knock them down, that's what I'm saying. Rookie season, but ain't come to do no playing.
Welcome to Crockett's Corner. Every now and then you get one of those shows that make you want to just bring your swag out, make you want to look good. This is one of those episodes. This is Crockett's Corner Championship Weekend. I'm here with one of my good friends, and when I say, bro, this goes way back. When I say good friends, I'm not talking about just good friends on the football field. I'm talking about good friends in life. And I gotta tell the world this story. The way I met Steve Atwater, I went to Baylor. He was at Arkansas. He actually knew, and we got to shout Barry Faust out. He actually knew one of my good friends, Barry Faust, who played with me in high school. They went to Arkansas together, and Barry Faust kept telling me about this dude. He was like, Ray, you got to see this dude. He's a safety. When I tell you, you would never believe what he looks like. So sure enough, we warming up. All of a sudden, I'm sitting down, I'm stretching, and the sun just goes blank. And it's just a lot of shade. I look up, the biggest dude I ever seen in pads in the secondary, this man right here. Bro, give him a proper introduction, though.
Right now, we are sitting with a Hall of Famer on multiple levels, whether we're talking about pro football or the college level, every level, he's a Hall of Famer. He's a two-time champion, played in the league over a decade, 8-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro, the All-Decade team for the 1990s, and one of the hardest hitting safeties in the history of the game. You are now rocking with the bestest Bro Paris, but we are here with Steve Atwater.
What up, fellas? Hey, man, that was a grand introduction, man.
Boy,
Cheers.
look.
I'm
Hey,
about to say.
If you're going to bring somebody to introduce, that's
right.
the man right there.
Yeah, that's what up,
Well,
right
welcome to Crockett's Corner, and this is a special edition. This is Crockett's Corner of Champions. That's what we're calling this because we are on location in Denver, and you see the bling bling.
Had to bring it out.
You sing about, bring them out, and that's what we're doing because it is the anniversary of the Denver Broncos winning a Super Bowl 25 years later. I mean, of course, let me just sit in the interviewer chair with two members of the championship team in the secondary.
Go ahead, my bro.
Steve, I'm going to come to you first. All right. Reflecting back, and we're going to start and talk about your story, but just let's focus on the championship.
Let me take my bling off. Let me go ahead.
No, Ray, leave that on. No, leave that on.
Leave my swag off?
Leave that on.
I can't see nothing.
Man, but reflecting back, looking at that championship year, you're in the defensive backfield. You have this man next to you. Just what does it mean now, looking back, seeing everything that's happened since then?
Oh, man, it still means the world to me, man. That's one of my greatest moments is, watching the last final play of that game, final defensive play of that game when John Mobley knocked a pass down from Brett Favre to Mark Shimura. And, I never knew that, that would be one of the best memories of my life, man. But, the friendships that we have from that team, the memories, they're still so vivid in my mind. I can just think about that game and I get goosebumps just thinking about it. Just how much pressure was on the AFC because the AFC hadn't won a game in so long, and then the Broncos
have just been getting smacked in every Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to you, Ray? I mean, obviously we talk all the time, but what does the Super Bowl mean to you looking back?
I mean, there's a time where there's only a few times I would say when you meet someone and you know that person is going to be part of your destiny. And that's kind of how Steve and I was. It was like our rookie years, we got drafted together, like I said, Arkansas, Baylor, old Southwest Conference, so we knew each other then. And just one day you just knew eventually you'll probably get to play together. So I go to watch him play in the first Super Bowl. And they played San Francisco, New Orleans, And you know the disaster that was. It was
It didn't well.
It was an embarrassing blowout.
Yeah.
And I just remember saying to myself, and this is serious, and I told Steve this, years after, watching that Super Bowl, I kept telling myself, that wouldn't happen if I was out there with him. Yeah, you just had that vision because they were playing zones, and I'm out there. I'm like,
he came. All he wanted to do was play bump man. He wanted to jam somebody.
Wait. What's the name of the book?
Bump and run.
Hey, so look, so rewind forward after that disaster, we go as the Detroit Lions in '91. We actually go to the NFC Championship game, and we lost to the eventual winners, the Washington Redskins, who ended up winning. So when it was my opportunity to come to Denver, it was crazy. As soon as I went,
Came in the building, man.
I walked in the building. It was just like,
this is my brother right here. From day one.
A1 from day one.
Yeah.
It was like, look, 27-39. If you're a biblical guy, that's the spirit. That's the scriptures.
Okay.
39 and 27. It's destiny.
Yeah.
It's destiny. So I told Steve, I said, man, when I signed with the Broncos, the first thing I told him, I said, dude, we're going to win.
Something special. Yeah, we're going to do something special.
I said, we're going to do something special together. Yeah. And it came to fruition. But I told him, we're not going to do it playing zone, though.
No.
I said, we're not going to do it. So with that being said, Steve, I kind of want to get back to your career because this is a story that I think the world needs to hear. It's a funny story. How did you end up playing safety? Steve, now back in the day, Steve played in the St. Louis. So Steve was.
I played safety there too.
He was a great player, but he was a quarterback.
Lutheran North.
Lutheran North, yeah.
Yeah, but he was a quarterback.
Crusaders, yeah.
So Steve, how did you end up choosing quarterback?
You mean safety over?
Safety.
Well, I didn't choose it.
It chose you.
Yeah, it chose me. Well, the way it was, man, I thought I was a pretty decent quarterback. When you're in the moment, you think you the stuff, right?
Right.
But when I look back on it, I saw my stats. I'm like, man, 800 and some yards passing, 7, 8 interceptions, 2 or 3 touchdowns. It wasn't that good, right? And the stats, I'm sure that wasn't the exact stats, but it was probably close, man. And but I wanted to play quarterback when I went to college, and a lot of colleges were recruiting me, and they say, hey, we want to recruit you to play safety. I'd be like, no, I'm playing quarterback. And but the Arkansas coaches, they were quite different. When they came in, they were like, yeah, come on down. We'll let you play some quarterback.
That reverse psychology.
Yeah. Well,
sure.
They knew they were going to switch it up.
Come on down, get you in the building.
but the thing was, like, I think when they saw the film, hey, I could throw it, but I threw a lot of interceptions.
And he made a lot of tackles.
I made a lot of tackles.
Those interceptions.
Because, I used to be.
He was knocking them out.
Boy, I was hot. I'm like, oh, no, you ain't intercepted my ball.
You throw interceptions, you get pissed off.
Oh, yeah. I'm probably the furthest, the deepest guy on offense throwing the pass. Then I'm going out, I'm running out and make the tackle. I'm like, all the butt down there.
So hold up, those tackles you made on those interceptions end up getting on your highlight.
Yeah, I know. They're like, whoa, man, this dude.
Yes. And
he can't throw, but
everybody forgot about him playing quarterback.
Yeah.
They was like, I don't know what he did before this hit, but this is what we want.
Yeah.
So Steve ended up from being a quarterback to a safety, which of course was the best transition he could have made. So Steve, talk a little bit about Arkansas, though. I just want to touch on that. What brought you to Arkansas from St. Louis? Because 2 total different environments.
Yeah, well, first off, my mother, she was from Arkansas. She was born in Arkansas, a little small town in southern Arkansas. And it was not too far away from my home. So when I visited, it's like a 6-hour drive, although we flew on the visit down there. It was my first time getting on an airplane, too. I was holding the back of the seat like, I'd never flown an airplane before I went down there. And that was actually my first trip. I had like another 4 visits lined up, and I just canceled all of them after I went to Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah,
One and done.
I did one and done because I felt like I didn't visit Mizzou, and I'm from Missouri. I had some guys who had come before me. One of my good friends, Bobby Joe Edmonds, he played at Arkansas. He got there before me. We went to high school together. Still one of my great friends. He had told me that even they made a transition from Lou Holtz to Ken Hatfield, and I had taken my visit while Lou Holtz was there. And then during the off season, they made the transition. Yeah, they switched up. But I talked to my guy, and he said, hey, man, this is going to be probably even better. And so, I trusted him. And again, my mom's family was from there. It was about a 5-6 hour drive. So I felt like it was far enough away to where I wouldn't be running back and forth every weekend. But it's, it's far enough away.
If you wanted to get
I could get there. I could get,
So I got to jump in for a second because people might not be familiar because things have changed since you two played. Southwest Conference, rest in peace. But it was an awesome conference, awesome teams. You two competed against one another. You were Baylor, you were Arkansas, and before the show,
he already know. He knows. He knows now. There we go. I ain't gonna even bring it up. He know.
They may have won one more game or something. I don't know. I don't recall the record.
And this is obviously
tap that ass.
Hey, they were not that great. I mean, we weren't. The first 2 years we were pretty good, but
you see him stuttering. He's stuttering.
They got us. I give it to him. 3-1. I think that's what it was. You looked it up. My years there, 3-1. But he was there like 6 years, so it don't really count.
He was a super senior.
He was a super senior before super senior started.
Man, as long as you get it, it don't matter.
I mean, do you guys remember anything about each other on the field back then? I mean, obviously you two met later on, but do you recall any type of?
Oh, I'm telling you, I definitely remember Steve. Like I said, Barry had just raved about him. And Barry Foster, yes. Shout out to my guy. Yeah, that's my dude.
In your high school.
Yeah, that was my guy. Me and Barry was running backs. He was actually my blocker until he came and broke all my records when I left. Yeah. Shout out Barry Foster. I appreciate you. But yeah, he told me about Steve, and I just had to see the guy for myself because he kept explaining it. He was like, man, we got this safety. He's like, I'm telling you, Ray, I've never seen anything like this. And at the time, we had the number one safety in college, Thomas Everett, who was
at 27.
Yeah, Jim Thorpe Award winner and all that. And I was like, dude, ain't no way. We got the best safety in the Southwest. And then when I saw Steve, I'm not gonna lie, I made a point to see his game. Mm-hmm. And to see a brother this big move the way he did, as fluid as he was, I was like, he's a natural. He's a natural. And at that time, it was the time of the big safeties. Yeah, that was when safeties really was coming about. You saw the Jack Tatums and all those guys. He was that type of guy. So I knew right away that he was going to be that guy. So for him to be transitioned from quarterback to safety was the best thing that could have ever happened to him.
Good point.
Trust me. And for real, sometimes that's what life is all about when you transition. Sometimes you transition into what's going to be your best.
You don't know that.
And you don't know it at the time. But you make the transition anyway. We're going to transition out and pay some bills. We'll be right back with my guy. And like I said, this is the championship edition of Crockett's Corner with Steve Atwater. Welcome back to Crockett's Corner. I'm Ray Crockett. This is my guy. You are now rocking with the best role pairs. And we are here with a special guest of mine. Not only just a football player, but a great friend, great teammate, Mr. Steve Atwater, Mr. Hall of Famer Steve Atwater. And let me look, enough of the swag. Let's get down and dirty. Yeah, we're going to get real here, Steve. We're going to transition into, now you leave Arkansas and you're a first-round pick of the Denver Broncos. Did you know anything about Denver beforehand, before you heard your name called? And let's just go back to that day, because for me, we got drafted in the same draft on the same day, but it was quite different. Me being the 86 player and you being picked in the first round. What do you recall about that day, and how did that day make you feel?
Yeah, well, no, I didn't know anything about Denver. I'd heard about the Orange Crush, knew the Orange Crush from, back in the 70s and 80s, late 70s, early 80s and that. So I really didn't know much about them. And then once I got drafted, I had to do some research, and I found out, man, they got a great history there. Right. And then just getting drafted on the first day, I didn't know I would be a first rounder.
Really?
And a lot of people, think they're going to get drafted in the first round. They don't get drafted in the first round, and I've seen that happen year after year. And so I didn't believe the hype.
So you had but there was words that said that they were telling you should be a first rounder. You just didn't want to believe.
I didn't hear none of that.
Really?
I didn't hear any of that. I was like, I just hope I get drafted on the first day. Now, my wife, we had a big party. We had people come in, and people get embarrassed at those sometimes.
Right. Yeah, I didn't have a draft party. I told Ro, for that reason. Because I was like, you know what? I really didn't know. But for you, I found that hard to believe because I knew right away. I mean, just from watching you play those years at Arkansas against Baylor and looking at you talking about you and probably Lewis Oliver.
Yeah.
Were the only two
Lou,
safeties.
I thought Lou was going to go first.
Right.
Everybody thought Lou was going to go. He thought he was going to go first. And Lou was the truth.
Yeah. No doubt.
Fast, hard hitter. He did everything right.
Well, hold on. You talk about hard hitters, so I got to bring this up because you went viral back in the day before viral was even a thing. And you already know where I'm going with this.
Right.
And by the way, I like that he's smiling because his nickname is the Smiling Assassin.
Yeah.
But early in your career, 1990, I believe it was Monday Night Football, you met the Nigerian Nightmare, Christian Okoye, in the hole, stood him up, lit him up, and like I said, went viral before viral was even a thing. Number one, how often is that brought up now, so many years later, and what do you remember about that play that you can tell our audience?
Well, to be honest with you, I mean, it doesn't come up as much now as it did, each year it dwindles a little bit more. And, first of all, I always say, man, I have mad respect for Christian Okoye, being a man, having to deal with the other side of that. I can't imagine how that feels, because, I trust me, I've gotten trucked before and, but people don't remember that, because, I didn't finish. I didn't finish on that. And I think some things happened in his life to where he's cut his career short because he had some family issues going on. So my heart kind of goes out to him in that regard. But yeah, I how it is in football. Hey, somebody gonna get it. Somebody gonna get embarrassed. And
but for you, Steve, on that hit, what did that do for you mentally? Because during that time, you were known as a hard hitter. We already knew that. There were a couple of you, Dennis Smith, John Lynch. There were a couple of safeties that were known as a hard hitter.
Oh yeah, Ronnie for sure.
But Ronnie Lott for sure. So after that hit, though, what does that do for you mentally? Does that make you think now?
You hit anybody.
Exactly. And that's what I wanted to hear.
And by the way, just for y'all, Christian Okoye, for those that don't know, he was what, 6'3", 6'4", about 2.
About 6'1", 6'2".
Yeah, about
he was bigger than life. He was probably a defensive lineman.
And running over everybody.
Right.
With a big pass.
Yeah. Big dude. Look him up on YouTube, but continue.
But see, that's a part of sport that transition moment. We always talk about the moment when you realize, okay, that I'm going to be something, or I could be something. For you, that moment, you just said it made you realize, okay, I can hit anybody. Is that the time that you really became the smiling assassin?
You know what? Probably, but my confidence was pretty high, and then playing alongside Dennis Smith, man, I'm telling you, I got so much inspiration from watching him, man. He would knock himself out. He would knock the other guy out. And I remember
he knocked me out one time. No, he did. No, I'm not lying.
I bet. I remember.
Friendly fire? Yes.
Oh yeah.
When I first signed with the Broncos, yeah.
Oh yeah. I remember running over playing Indianapolis Colts. Roosevelt Potts in the backfield. Dennis came up full speed, and I don't think Roosevelt Potts saw him because he was running off of a block. And Dennis, man, just lowered his head, hit him right in the chest and the chin. And then I went over and I'm like, I tried to help Dennis up because Dennis was a little bit dizzy too. And I looked over and I saw Roosevelt Potts and his eyes were back in his head. I'm like, God, dog it. Yeah. And, I've been in many games where I'm running over to make a tackle. He come flying back, pow! I'm like, damn, I got to pick it up.
Right.
This dude is full tilt. So, just, hearing his words talk to me and then just, seeing it on the field live, man, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
So we go back to that. You and Dennis Smith, you guys had a great career together. I mean, perennial Pro Bowlers and both doing just when I say doing crazy things, when I would watch the film, I'm not going to lie. I had a great safety in Detroit, Benny Blaze. But when I would watch those films, man, I just said, man, I got to get me two of them. Look, kind of like the old school days when they saw the black guys running down the side. Man, I need to get me one of them. That's how I felt. That's how I felt watching those two play. I was like, one day, but for you guys going to the Super Bowl, I know your rookie year, It was, yeah, but it was a great accomplishment and a great letdown all in the same year.
Yeah.
What did you take from that experience?
Depression.
Really?
I won't say depression, but it hurt my ego quite a bit because, I thought we were the stuff. I thought we were going to come in there and compete, have a great game, and, may come down to the wire. And we stepped on the field. It's like, we playing a whole different team. They're in a whole different league.
Right.
It's like they knew our playbook, man. And I remember this one particular play. We had been practicing it all week where I'm kind of lined up on the line of scrimmage and I back up and Jerry Rice is coming across on a crossing route. And in practice, I'm like, y'all, man, I'm a terrorist. I'm going to take his head off.
Yeah.
And the game time came, it unfolded perfectly, man. He's coming across, I'm like, yeah. And I ran into him, and I don't know what it was. His angle was awkward. My angle, the way I tried to hit him was awkward. Dude, he bounced off me like I was a piece of cotton and ran into the end zone. And I'm laying on the ground like, what the hell?
Like, this is really happening. This is really happening.
Dude, how did I – but I didn't wrap up, and I've heard him give some interviews, and he said, man, they don't wrap up. Like, yeah, we didn't wrap. I didn't wrap up on that one.
So with that being said, after that game, did you ever think that you would have the opportunity to come back?
Oh, most definitely. Well, we had, it's like, I think the next year we didn't go to the playoffs. Then my 1991 season, we went to the playoffs again. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I think we lost to Buffalo Bills. So I'm thinking, all right, well, every couple of years we get to the playoffs. And then we had to drop.
Those lean mid-90s.
Yeah, then like, I didn't see the playoffs for a minute. I'm like, oh, man, I might not ever get there again.
Yeah, you're thinking that might be my last experience.
Yeah, man.
And that's something that you don't want to have lingering on as that experience.
But you know how it is, though. When you go into a season, you always think you got a chance, even if you really don't. People on the outside sometimes like, no, they don't have a chance. But we thought, I know I went every season thinking, man, we got a chance. We got some players. We got the coaches. We can do it.
So when did it come to that transition period where you felt it's time to change things up? Was that a collective feeling with the Broncos?
What do you mean?
As far as it's time to change coaches, it's time to change scheme?
No, I was never like that. But I know when Mike Shanahan came in, I know that we had a whole different vibe. We just the way he treated us. He treated us to the best in life. But only thing he had to do, he had to perform. If you didn't perform, you weren't going to be there. He wasn't going to argue. He wasn't going to yell and scream. But if you didn't play, guess what? You out. And so, and I like that, I like that because we like working anyway. We had some guys that, hey, we're going to put in that work. And if you don't put in that work, you're not going to last too long around here. So that was, I think, the point where it changed. I don't know how he did it, man, but just the way he inspired us, the way he coached us. And then we had so much confidence in him that he knew what the heck he was doing because, he would explain stuff to us defensively that we should do. And I'm like, damn, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
He changed something up in practice. Oh, stop practice. Get a little wider because you're showing this right here. I'm like, oh, that's a good point,
Right. And I feel, Steve, what he really did for, especially with you going to the Super Bowl and losing, and with me going to the NFC Championship and losing, I felt the difference between a winning organization and losing organization when Mike Shanahan came. Because the first thing I felt he did for us, he made it competitive in the building.
Yeah, super competitive. Yeah. We had basketball goals.
Yeah, everything we did was competitive.
I mean,
our mindset.
Little miniature balls, but yeah.
Well, it's funny. On the way over here, we listened to the Uber drivers. I used to play ball with Dennis Smith, so I mean, it makes sense. But just talk about some of that. So, what were some of the things that were placed in the building that were competitive besides shooting hoop? What else happened?
With that, man, practice was fun. We weren't killing each other in practice.
So what changed in practice from what was going on with the previous regime? What changed? What raised the level of competitive?
For me, when I would talk to Steve and some of the guys, he made it that ones versus ones. Like when I was in Detroit, we very seldom went the first team versus the first team. First team always went against the second team. Yeah, and that's how most people are because you don't want to get your guys hurt. But with Shanahan, it was ones versus ones. Like myself and Anthony Miller, who we both came at the same time. We were the best, with the prize, I should say, free agents, the big time signings. And every day, he and I went at it.
And what they say, iron sharpens iron?
And that is not a cliche. That is something that I realized that it was harder for us at practice, I felt, than it was in the games.
Yeah.
The games became really, really easy from practice. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, most definitely. I remember doing a 2-minute drill. You know, we going up against John Elway.
Yeah, you got.
And you're like,
yeah,
bro,
Hall of Fame quarterback. You got TD back there.
if you could have any success against John Elway,
Yeah.
who else? Nobody else is going to be that difficult, you know.
Right.
And that's where I felt that's where the transition of the Broncos started to believe. And not only that, I felt that he really started to look at from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
From top to bottom, everybody was important in the organization. And I feel that's how life is in business. If you're going to be successful, as they say, you can go far alone, but if you want to win, it takes a group, it takes competitive, and it takes togetherness, it takes a team. And I felt that that's what Shanahan wanted to prove to us. And we're going to talk about that when we get back as far as when it really transitioned into a team, and not just a team, but a championship team. We'll be right back. Crockett's Corner. How did you feel the first day when Shanahan comes in and he gives us that speech? I remember us leaving that speech. You know how when you leave a speech and you just say, "Oh, this is the right guy." What was it that Shanahan did, or what was the feeling of that moment?
It was just really something special, you know, and we knew, you know, the 49ers, they had been winning big time, and, you know, Mike knew that system inside and out, the West Coast system, that outside zone run scheme. And, you know, we knew that part, the X's and O's part was going to be great. But then for me, it was just his motivational, you know, the way he was able to motivate us, man, the fire that we saw that he had, man. And it just, I think it trickled to all of us, man. It gave us all that fire, man, that belief that, hey, man, we're going to build something special here, you know. And again, I just like the way that he treated us like men. He always treated us like men. He never, you know, never treat us like we were, you know, most coaches would say that too. But
look down at you.
Yeah. No, he never did that. Never did. Always treat us like men. And again, he made it where we had a great time. I mean, we had so much fun. We were coming into the building early. We had to be in for a 7:30 meeting. We would get there at 6 o'clock, 6:30.
Yeah.
You know.
So the vibe was different.
The vibe was totally different.
So obviously you two became champions, but before you became champions, there was a little bit of disappointment while Shanahan was there as far as like the team record.
There's always a process, and that's the one thing that a lot of people don't like to talk about. You know, it's kind of like a female that's pregnant. Most of the time when a female comes in the first day, you don't want to hear about the 9 months, show me the baby. Yeah. and that's kind of what everybody talked about. But there was a process. We were 8-8 the first year. Then the next year we catch on and we catch fire. And with 13-3, home field advantage, we thought we were the stuff. We were going straight to the Super Bowl, and we knew that's where we were supposed to be. And then Jacksonville.
Yeah.
We let Jacksonville come into our house and beat us. Steve, talk about that, because I know as well as, and look, you know how I felt. I don't even remember the team after that loss. What was it for you, and what made you think, because you always had the calm mindset, what made you think that, hey, we're coming back from this?
Well, I mean, going 13-3 and the confidence that we had all season, we felt like it was a fluke that they came back. And I know I had a thigh bruise. I wasn't in the game, and I heard later on that somebody thought that I was faking. I'm like, come on, man, bro, I would never fake an injury, ever, you know. But, you know, and I'm not saying that's the reason why we lost, but, you know, that made it hurt even more for me, not being in the game, not being able to help. You know, I see my guys out there going to war, and I'm like, I'm on the sidelines, you know, like a wounded person, you know. So that hurt, man. That hurt me badly, but man, I just saw 13-3. How many times you go 13-3? You know, and we knew, man, we just had to stick to what we were doing. You know, we had to stick to the plan, and you know, that's when I think we all realized we can do this, man. We can be special.
And the one thing that Shanahan taught me after that year, and the one thing that I looked forward to was, I told Steve, we were 13-3. Most teams would take that season, take that record, and stay the same. Shanahan was always looking to improve. We went from 13-3, and Anthony Miller, great friend of mine, great friend of Steve. Shanahan got rid of Anthony Miller because he didn't feel that he was a team guy, and brought Rod Smith in. Shanahan was still making changes. Brought Neil Smith in from Kansas City Chiefs. That's when you knew that things have changed around here. Shanahan was about that life. He was, so with that being said, Steve.
What year did Darian Gordon come in? I think he came in 97 too, didn't he?
Yes, Darian Gordon came in. Darian Gordon came in after that 13-3. Like I said, both teams would have stayed pat.
Right.
But
make some key tweaks here. Yes.
Shanahan was, and you know what? That taught me about life as well.
Got to always upgrade.
You have to always look to upgrade. You have to always, so in business and life, that's where football becomes just like life. And Shanahan, I think, taught us all about that transition and about change. Right. That's the most important thing, that nothing stays the same. Mm-hmm. If you do, you're not going to get better. Talk about that, Steve, because I know you and I, we were shocked to see Michael Dean Perry. Oh, we were shocked to see Anthony Miller. We were shocked to see
some
Shanahan
of those guys
get rid of these guys.
They used to like superstar players, who were coveted when they came to the team and even played well when they were with the team, but somehow Shanahan didn't see them as part of the future, and he made some changes, man. But man, I saw Neil Smith, he came to town. We went out to dinner, and we had a great time. And I'm glad he joined us and was able to get the rings too, man. But man, him, and then I saw Darian Gordon. I just saw him for a visit. I was like, bro, you about to sign?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, we they for real,
And the thing is, Darian Gordon, who went to a Super Bowl with San Diego against the 49ers. Right. Yeah. So Shanahan already knew him as well. Yeah. So Shanahan went and got guys, like I said, that he knew was just a little bit of what we needed. Not necessarily in talent, but in mindset. Mm-hmm. And that's when I say it's a mental thing. Like for me, I always watch the physical part of football. And
Big Al too. When the Big Al
come? Al was there in 96.
Okay.
Al was there. But still, just what Shanahan did as far as the changes that he made, that's when it made me see that football was way, way, way more than just the physical aspect.
More than X's and O's, yeah.
It was more than X's and O's. And it also made me realize that in life, you have to be willing to accept change and really say, throughout the change, I'm going to see where I fit in. And that's kind of what life is about. It's what football is about. Steve, when we come back from this break, we're going to talk about the championship. We're going to talk about what changed during that game, because there was a lot of changes in that game as well. We'll be right back with my man, Steve Atwater, Ro Parrish, Ray Crockett, the City of Champions, Denver Broncos.
It is Crockett's Corner. Welcome back, Ro Parrish, along with Ray Crockett and our special guest, Steve Atwater. It is Crockett's Corner of Champions. We're talking about the championship, the Super Bowl, two-time champions in the building. That game was so awesome. And by the way, just in case y'all forgot, Hall of Famer, class of 2020, one of 8 true Broncos that are in the Hall of Fame. So congratulations on that. But before we get to the Hall of Fame, just the Super Bowl in general, because that's such a big game. The disappointment that you experienced before you get back, you've been there, you've done that, but you didn't get to taste the champagne. So what is the focus? What is the process as you're entering that Super Bowl after losing that first one?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, all season long, we knew we were building for something strong, having come off a really strong season, 13-3 in the regular season. So we knew we had a mission. We were kind of on a mission. And, we started off pretty good. But, we had to go the long, hard route, too. 12-4 during the regular season. And then where did we go first? We went to Jacksonville first. Jacksonville first at home.
We had to avenge the loss to Jacksonville. Then we had to avenge the loss to Kansas City. And Pittsburgh Steelers have blew us out earlier in that game. We had to avenge the loss to them all on their fields. So we went the hard route as a big payback. Oh, yeah. It was definitely a big payback. Yeah. But the thing that I found that was most interesting about that was the changes that we made. And I want to say this because in life, people are so afraid of changes. And change is hard. But a lot of times, you don't see the outcome of what change does for you during that time. Right. It takes a moment. Until later. So for us, talk about that, Steve. Talk about the difference in I guess, the losing Super Bowl year, and then the year this year of winning and then going back to back. What were some of the subtle changes you felt in the environment?
Well, I think that we had great players on both of those teams, but somehow I felt like the motivation was a little bit higher. You know, it seemed like we were playing for each other. Although I felt like I've done that every year that I played. I don't know why. It just seems like for those years it was more.
Closer,
it was
family.
more special. It was
Yeah.
it was like I'm playing for my brothers.
Yeah.
You know, I'm playing for family. You know, because we spent so much time together. You know, not only on the field practicing in the meeting room, but man, we did everything together. You know, our families. You know, we all connected. You know, and so it was more than just a football game. It was our life. And
you're gonna play differently.
you connected because you're not just playing for yourself. You're not just out there. Oh yeah, I'm just trying to get me. You know, I'm trying to get 10 interceptions. I wish I'd have had 10 interceptions. I dropped 10, but you know, we're holding
you still face a 24 career. That's you know, hey.
You know what? I know exactly what you're talking about because for me, the trust that we had in one another. Because I bring this up vividly because there was one play that Steve had enough trust in me, knowing that I had studied film. I was a real studier of film. I was very astute of film. So during this time, I would tell Steve, I would say, Steve, if they come out of this formation and Robert Brooks is here, they're running this play. Yeah. Forget what you have. Come over here. Yes. Look, so they was going to run a slant and go. And this was early in the game, though. But even though it didn't work out, like Steve dropped the interception, but what it proved to me was that we're tied together. We trust it. So at that point, all of the worry just went out the window. Yeah. It was like my brother got my back. Yeah,
right. And we would do that. We would do it other times. There would be a time when, just say, a receiver on the other side of the field was super good. I'm like, all right, Crock, play off. I may have to help to the other side, you know. And he's like, all right, cool, I got you, you know. So we worked together like that. We had the communication and just the trust in each other that, you know, we're gonna be where we're supposed to be, and we're gonna execute at a high level.
Because that's one thing we talked about before. Obviously, on the defensive side, generally the middle linebacker is going to make the call. But in the secondary, I mean, I played a little bit back in the day. We made our calls that we would make that was separate from the defense, and you guys were such on the same page. Yeah. You did that at times as well.
Oh no, that was huge. That's a huge part of it, and you know, you get. I remember I was coaching little league ball and high school ball. I would tell my guys, look, you can't be a quiet defensive back. You got. I want to hear you yell loud as you can when you're making calls to the other side of the field, because it's that important, especially when the crowd is up and you know guys are just whispering. It's not going to work. So we had that part down, and again, we had to trust that the guys knew what they were going to do and could take care of business.
So let's move from the Super Bowls now. I mean, we got those two, and believe me, most like Steve said, it was the most. I can't think of, other than having my kids, right, yeah. I can't think of another experience that feels as good as confetti falling on your face. Because you hear that all the time, yeah. and like I said, it took me all the way to my 9th year to get to that first Super Bowl. Steve went to the Super Bowl in his first year and didn't go back until his 9th year, correct?
You're right.
Yeah.
But you just think about, like, this is something you've been working towards for 9 years. And really even back when you were, in college and high school, you were building up to this. You didn't know that. I didn't know it, But then, man, to finally get what you've been working for. And, man, I'm telling you, man, I still go back and see the highlights, and I see the tears coming. The grown men, man, we're crying and just joy. And I got chill bumps now just thinking about it, man. It's a beautiful thing to, finally work so hard and then get to where you're trying to get to, man. It's way more than going out and just making tackles and making this up. It's so much more than that. It's also the connection with each other that you got to have, the connection with your coaches, man. We really loved our coaches, man. Yeah. And we not only were playing for us, we were playing for them, and it was a beautiful thing.
And that's why you have these, like, all teams have reunions of the Super Bowl, because there's two things in the NFL that really determines your legacy. One is championships, and the other one is the Hall of Fame. Those are the two determining factors of were you any good. Did you win championships? Did you make it to the Hall of Fame? So now you won 2 championships. When did you start thinking about the Hall of Fame?
You know what? when I first was voted as one of the semifinalists, I want to say that was like 5, 6, 7 years after I retired. And I was like, man, hey, maybe I may
So
have a
before
shot at
that,
it.
even with all
Well,
of your,
I thought about it. Yeah, I thought about it. I was like, yeah, I may have a
you're an
chance.
8-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
I mean, eight Pro Bowls out of 11 years, Steve. That's incredible.
Oh, by the way, there were a couple of seasons he was the best at his position, being an All-Pro too. So you can throw that out there.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, to go to 8 Pro Bowls out of 11 years, that's unheard of. And then to win 2 championships. Once you win those 2 championships, you had to think in the back of your mind.
I was thinking it was a possibility because I don't know why. I've always had it, to where my kids, they always say, never play yourself. No, I don't want to assume nothing. I don't want to assume anything before it happens because that'll set me up to be disappointed. And I didn't want to be disappointed. So I just said, hey, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, hey, I still had a great career. I still got a bunch of great friends. I got a bunch of great memories. So yeah, but I'm definitely blessed and happy that it happened. But if it wouldn't have happened, then guess what? I still would have been happy.
So there was never a point when you've been a semifinalist, then you've been a finalist. How many times were you a finalist? 4 times, I think, or 5 times?
I think 3 or 4.
3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a finalist. At that point, do you
Yeah,
get upset?
then I really thought.
Do you get upset with the voting? Because everybody knows, do you get upset about it or how do you feel about it?
No, I didn't because you can't control it. It's not in your hands. Ain't nothing you can do about it. So I never got upset about it. I said if it's meant to be, it'll be. If it's not, guess what? I go into the seniors, but I don't want to go over to the seniors pool though because once you get there, then it's almost chance you probably the chance is slim to none. But but I wasn't upset. I was happy for the guys that got in, and that's just I don't know, man. I'm just wired like that.
So the internal reaction when you did get the news that you were going to be inducted, just walk us through that moment and how it felt.
Yeah, well, my son DeAndre was in the room with me, my wife obviously, and then my good friend, my former boss, Mac Freeman, he was in the room with me. And it was crazy because, most people know that, all right, they're voting for the Hall of Fame, especially the sports writers.
Right.
Mike Kliss, guy here in town, one of the insiders for the Broncos, he calls me, and if you get a phone call, that's letting you know you don't get in, right? If it's from the Hall of Fame. So
he calls you during that time?
He calls me during the time, and I had a little cover over my phone, and I picked up my phone. I'm like, dang, man, we didn't get in. I pulled the cover over. I saw it was Mike Kliss. I'm like, oh, yeah. I declined it. And I'm like, yeah, I'm glad that was Mike that time. So wait a minute. I said, we still in it.
I didn't even hear about this. So he actually called you.
He called me
during the
waiting period.
Forbidden time.
Yeah, man. I'm like, Mike, what are you doing, man? So I definitely didn't take that call then. I was like, man, what am I thinking about right now? And then I just heard it a little later. Boom, 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 boom. I was like, yeah, that's David.
So when you get that knock on the door, you knew at that point.
Yeah. Especially the force behind it, too.
Yes, because it's the way people knock on the door, but that's a big gentleman.
You're not like cops.
No, and hold up, I know. Hold up now.
Steve like, that's either 5-0 or I got in.
That's a good point. But in one of the previous years.
That's the only time you want to hear a knock like that.
Yeah. One of the previous years I was a finalist, and somebody knocked on the door.
It was that silent.
I was like, nah, that don't sound
I like to borrow some sugar.
Yeah, that was the maze. I'm like, come on, man. Don't knock on the door right now.
Would you like your cleaning done?
Yeah. So this one, I felt the force behind it, and yeah, man, it was a beautiful thing.
Man, so after that moment, you and I talked about, because Steve knew. I told him that when he was going to get in. I said, dude, you getting in next year. And I said, look, just don't forget to shout me out.
Oh, you know that. Hey, I could have did it without you, man.
I was like, don't forget to shout me out. But now you're in the Hall of Fame. Now you're transitioning from that. You had a great career. And we always want to talk about this, and especially I want to talk about this with you, because you were a hard hitter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you threw your body around. You gave it up for the team, and concussions and all that. You went through it all. So we're going to talk about that part of the NFL.
What about Rob? I can't remember anything now.
Look, how it's hard for you to find your keys and stuff like that. No, on a serious note, though, we're going to talk about that a little bit, because you've had to transition from playing. Now you work for the organization, and you did some coaching as well. So we're going to talk about how hard it is now to make the transition from being All-Pro Hall of Fame to being Steve Atwater, the normal guy, not the smiling assassin no more. We'll be right back. This is Crockett's Corner. Now we have to talk about some seriousness, and this is the transition, Steve, because you gave up your body. When I say gave up your body, you collision after collision after collision that I got to witness, even ones that I didn't get to
you
witness.
did too.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
And I know how I feel today.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to bring it into that part. This is where we normally have a drink, because I want to butter you up so you can say, yeah, it hurt. But since we don't have drinks today, we're just going to do it. We're going to do it just on the real. How do you feel now? How is your body? How is your mind? How do you feel from a mental aspect of it? Because we know mental health is really, really big when it comes to transitioning and retirement. How do you feel, and how difficult was that transition? Because we're going to talk about it all now. We're going to talk about some of the financial things that you and I went through as well. So just let's talk about a little bit about that. How was your first transition? Were you ready to retire after 11 years, or did it abruptly hit you?
No, I was ready to retire. I thought I was going to get one more year in after, the Broncos released me after the 99 season. And then, and so I signed with the Jets for a year. And then after that, I hurt my knee. I torn my patellar tendon. I didn't know that though. And so I thought I was going to get a chance to play another year. Then I got an MRI done on my knee, and I found out I had a torn patellar tendon. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go through the rehab and all that. I'm not up for that right now. So, but overall, I still felt good about the decision. I didn't regret it. I didn't feel like, oh man, I got another year or two in me. I felt like it was time. I always knew when I was playing ball that I wanted to, be in real estate, and I love the stock market. Love stocks and that. So I kind of had a vision of what I wanted to do. And right when I got out, I started doing real estate, moved to Atlanta, had property management company. I had you've probably seen the signs of We Buy Ugly House. I owned one of them early on after I retired. I had it for a few years, and I got rid of it. I ended up selling it. But I knew what I wanted to do, and I felt like it was the right time for me. And I don't think at first I didn't think I had a tough time transitioning, but several years later I went to a career transition program the NFL has, and it was at Stanford University, on the campus of Stanford University. I think we were there for maybe 2 or 3 days, and we got into these groups, small groups, and just retired athletes, retired NFL players, and we were just talking about different things that we had been going through, and we all realized that we all had been depressed,
Right.
And I didn't know it. I didn't know I was depressed. I went through a period. I wasn't depressed at that time because it was 8-9 years after I retired.
Right.
But
you felt it coming.
But I look back on it and like, oh dang,
okay. I got you.
I was retired. I would go in my basement. I wouldn't want any lights on, I didn't want to talk to anybody.
You started isolating
yourself.
yourself.
Yeah. And, everything was going good. I didn't have really any reason I don't feel like I had any reason to be depressed, but I was, like I said, isolating. And, fortunately, I never had any of the bad thoughts of hurting myself, or, I never had a drinking problem, a drug. Fortunately,
Right.
And I know, that's difficult for a lot of people.
Well, I would say this to everybody. I mean, we normally end this up with a little. Look, my man Ro normally has, what is it called, Ro?
I call it rapid fire.
Rapid fire. We're not going to rapid fire today because
Okay.
I really want to say this to the people out there. And as you can see, Steve Atwater is really, in my opinion, one of those guys that you can say, if you were to just biblically look at something and say spiritually, this is really what happens. God really uses what you have left. Don't worry about what you lost, because we've lost a lot of money, we've lost a lot of friends. But guess what? God uses what you have left and comes back right here to all the happiness, everything that he always wanted. It took a decade to get there, but he's here now. He's happy, and you're feeling good. Everything is good up top as well.
I don't know about that. my memory is not as good as I'm not as quick. I used to be halfway quick with it. He was always fast, more quick than I was. But sometimes I wonder like, oh man, am I losing it? But you know, because I can't think of things as fast as I used to, you know. But you know, and I don't remember, I don't forget where I am or where my keys are. You know, I'm good on that in that regard. And I think a lot of people, when you're 55, 56 years old, they have some of those issues. I'm a lot better than a lot of people, but you know, I feel like you know, I'm not as good as I was when I was young.
Right. I can't say this any more clear. You're my guy.
Oh man, you already know.
Like
man.
a
Same
brother,
here, man.
like
Hey,
a brother from
always.
another mother. And I will tell you, throughout the trials and tribulations, just strengthen what you have left. That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. Don't worry about what you lost. Don't worry about all. Strengthen what you have left, whether that's your mind, your soul, your emotions, your finances. Strengthen what you have left. This is Crockett's Corner, and this is the Week of Champions. And together, you are now rocking with the best. We'll talk to you later. Money comes and goes. Friendship lasts forever. Yeah, let's do it. I'm starving.
Line them up and knock them down, that's what I'm saying. Rookie season, but ain't come to do no playing. I'm the rookie of the year, yeah. Say I'm the rookie of the year, yeah.